Okay, so the video I'm going to show you today is how I can compare fractions by finding the least common denominator. So common meaning the same or similar, and denominator meaning the bottom number in a fraction. Right now, it's very difficult for me to compare these two fractions because the whole has been cut up in different sizes. So not only are there different size pieces, but I have different numbers of those pieces. So what I want to do is convert these fractions to something with a common denominator. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to list the multiples of each denominator. So I'm going to set up my grid just like when we had our long division, and I'm going to skip count through my different amounts. So 4, 8, 12, I'm counting up by 4 here, 16, 20, 24. I'm going to try over here now just for a little bit. So now I'm going to count over my denominator here. 5, 10, 15, 20, and it looks like I can stop there because I have a 20 over here with my 4's and a 20 over here with my 5's. So that tells me that I am able to convert these fractions into fractions over 20. So that way they both have a common denominator. However, I can't just take the 1 and put it here because 1/4 is not the same as 1/20. And I can't just take the 3 and put it over here because 3/5 is not equivalent, is not the same as 3/20. So I go back to my grid and I ask myself, how did I turn that 4 into 20? 4 times what gave me 20? So 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 times 5 brought me to 20. So that means I need to do the 1 times 5. Multiply the bottom, multiply the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 5 times 1 equals 5. So an equivalent fraction to 1/4 is 5/20. So let's do the same thing over here. How did I turn that 5 into a 20? Well, 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 times 4 gave me 20. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 3 times 4 will get me 12. So now I have two fractions that are equivalent to the original fractions. 1/4 is equivalent to 5/20, and 3/5 is equivalent to 12/20. So now that they are cut up into the same size pieces, all I need to do is see which one has more of those pieces. So 12/20 is greater than 5/20. Another really cool thing that you can do is the fact that you can now add these fractions because they are in the same denominator. They have a common denominator. So not only can I compare them, I can also add them. So if I want to add the fractions, here's what I'm going to do. Adding fractions is a little different, but it's really easy. Once I get to a common denominator, that's what I have to do. The denominator has to be the same. I am just counting how many pieces of those do I have altogether. So this just tells me that they are in the size of 20ths, so that stays the same. 20ths. And then I just say, okay, well, this fraction I had 5 of those 20ths, and with this one I had 12 of those 20ths. If I count it together, I have 5/20 and 12/20 together. That gives me 17/20. So that's a look ahead about what we will be doing next in this unit, is adding those fractions after we're able to compare them. So your takeaways for this lesson are: we know that we have to find a common denominator. Okay? A common denominator in order to compare and add those fractions. In order to do that, we are going to start listing multiples in our multiples grid in order to find the lowest common multiple, also known as, you'll hear me say this, the LCM. After I did that, I converted my fraction into a new fraction using that lowest common multiple as the new denominator. I had to multiply it, the denominator, to get there. Whatever I did to the bottom, I did to the top, and that created my new numerator. Since they were both with the same common denominator, I could compare those fractions. I can also add the fractions if I wanted to add them. Alright, thanks for listening. To get this head start, we'll be covering it this week in math.